Hi everyone, I'm Rahul Raval, your friend and host on Coffee Table Stories. Today, the person we are going to talk is someone whom I met through a social media platform some years back. Thankfully, so we became friends soon, and I got to witness this fantastic individual journey through her. It gives me an immense pleasure to introduce Kanupriya Sharma. Kanupriya, my friend, is a spiritually curious humanitarian who loves reading, writing, traveling, and exploring life riding her bullet. Yes, her bullet. She's very passionate about fitness and mental health issues. Kanupriya believes in the path of growth and discovery that goes beyond the experience of the body and mind. Sounds fascinating, right? We'll explore more through this discussion with her. Thank you so much, KP, for being with us on Coffee Table Stories.
Thank you for having me, Rahul. It's a pleasure and honor to be here.
Likewise, likewise. So, Kanupriya, I've been following you on various social platforms. We have been talking for years, so I've witnessed this wonderful journey that you have been through, and that's what we want to discuss in this episode. So I'll start with my first question. Okay, so give us a glimpse of your journey until now, and also if you can point out some events which changed the way you look at the life you do now, right? The person you are today.
Thanks. Yeah, that's a tricky question because so much has happened in life, and I'll just try and kind of pick out four key milestones in life. Basically, things that I can remember on the tip of my finger that have helped me evolve into a person that I am today. Definitely starting with taking charge of my health as a teen, as a young person, as a child. I was quite pampered at home. I was the only child for 8 years, and being born and raised in a Punjabi family, all the focus was on food. So I was quite a chubby child who turned into an obese teenager. And then I got aware of where my health is going, and I wasn't happy with the situations. The first change or transformation in life was when I decided to take charge of my fitness and health.
Hmm.
Um, Definitely the second milestone in life was falling in and out of love, and everything that happened in between. I was in a My first relationship was a long relationship of 13 years, and it was,
Wow,
oh,
13
I
years.
know, yeah, it's kind of rare, and it was a journey that I started when I was in my early 20s, and the foundation of it was quite shaky in the sense that it started with I had a lot of insecurities, and it started with my insecurities and my desire to be accepted by the opposite sex. We'll talk about it in detail
Yeah.
later. How your body image or your image of yourself when you are as a child and when you grow up as a teenager affects the choices that you make in life and your connections and relationships with other people in the world. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. So yeah, falling in love and then falling out of love, having first heartbreak, it was tough, but again, quite transformational for me. I learned that I need to deal with my insecurities on my own, and I need to take charge of my mental health as well because after 13 years, I was quite broken and down into pieces, and I had to gather myself together and start life all over again in a way. So that was another milestone. And then definitely starting my job in the development sector, in social development sector, working for a cause. It made me feel that my commitment, my contribution to the society is going to pay some results. So I am working for something productive, and my work is not just getting me a living, but I'm doing something which is passionate, which is driving me as a person towards growth and contributing to the society. um, and then of course my interest in traveling and experiencing life as it comes, and that little adventurous streak here and there of learning how to ride a bullet, and then taking on small trips across Delhi and outside of Delhi, and just sort of earning those experiences, reflecting on them. Yeah, so just about that. I think all these things have made me into the person that I am today.
Right, absolutely. And such a beautiful journey you have had. I mean, see, everyone's journey is full of experience, right? And uh, but if we grow through it, then I think that's a success, right? So, very curious about the bullet thing, and so knowing that we are a country where we are good at judging everything and anything and everything. So, how is your experience of riding a bullet? Being a woman riding a bullet in Delhi or outside Delhi. If you have taken those trips, how was the experience? Have you had some funny reactions or the things that you can recount?
Yeah, it's been fascinating. Definitely, I've got a lot of attention, wanted and unwanted.
Yeah.
And I was a bit scared initially because my family were kind of, scared for me that Bullet is a very heavy bike, and they were happy with me trying maybe a scooty or any other
Yeah.
two-wheeler, but owning a Bullet was they were initially against it, and they kind of, in their protective manners, they try to instigate fear that you'll fall down, you'll break a leg, and don't go for it. It's not a very ladylike thing. But I don't know, this innate desire uh, to have this adventure. It just sort of didn't it didn't fizzle out in me. So I bought my friend's old Bullet just to see how good or bad I am with it. And against all odds, I learned it, started riding, started enjoying it. And yes, people passed comments, people, especially guys, they kind of booed me at times, tried to kind of,
Yeah.
talk to me. And it was funny. And the funniest experience was that I chopped my hair short just so that, I can kind of wear helmet more comfortably.
Hmm.
And I was in full gear. So I was riding my Bullet from work back home, and it was raining a lot. And somehow at Dholakua, my bike slipped a little. So I fell over on the left side. And it was because of a car. It sort of came so close to me that I just sort of, got a bit scared, and I lost my balance. And the Bullet was slow. I was slowing it down. So I was
Okay.
applying the brake because the signal had turned red. And I fell down, and the guy also was a bit startled at what had happened. So he didn't realize that it was a woman rider. He came out, and he looked quite upset, as if he was probably going to start a quarrel. That, hey, dude, how are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Kidding.
Yeah.
And then I took off my helmet, and I stood up. Bullet was flat on the floor. I took off my helmet, and he realized it's a woman, and he was shocked. And instantly his reaction changed from being upset and angry to being polite and apologetic. And he said, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize it was a woman rider. I said, no worries, it wasn't your fault. I was just trying to slow down, and then because of the rain, we couldn't see and gauge. And he said, let me help you lift it up. And I was like, don't worry, I'll do it. And he was wondering, how is she going to be able to lift that heavy thing off the ground? And
Yeah.
thanks to my love for lifting, when I did it, with ease, he was astonished, and so were people around. And that was quite a funny incident, and definitely I hurt myself a little. But yeah, one of the funny stories, riding
Yeah.
riding my Bullet.
And
Mhm.
so if I have to tell you in my case, so people with disability and they driving a car or any vehicle for that matter, obviously that is also not seen as a valid match, right? And like you said, your family and your parents and everyone was so worried that you are going to ride a very heavy bike, and they were worried in their own right of being parents and family. But at the same time, the good thing is that you did not give up. But in my case, I tell you my story that
Mm-hmm.
I was very inspired. Where I have a friend who lives in Dehradun, and so she's also on wheelchair. She has the locomotor disability like I am,
Mm-hmm.
and but she takes the she drives the car, right, and she drives the car in the hills. She drives from Dehradun to Mussoorie or to Rishikesh and back to Dehradun, and so she rides in hills, and I was so inspired. I was so awestruck with that, and so pumped up. I bought an automatic car, and I got it fitted with the hand controls because
Mm-hmm.
my legs don't work in that fashion that I can control accelerator or brake or clutch through my legs. So I got these controls fixed in my car.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there was immense pressure from my family, my loved ones, that I won't be able to drive even if I learn driving a little bit. Delhi is not a place, where I can drive the car. Eventually, I gave up. So, but listening to your story, I really feel good that you did not give up. You you tried your best, and now you have succeeded, and you have instilled that confidence in everyone around that you can do it, right? And now I don't think uh, कि वो अभी parental pressure अब होगा वैसा वाला कि why are you riding a bullet and all, because now it's years that you have been riding a bullet and they are confident.
Yeah, absolutely, Rahul. I think initially I was also not very confident. I'll be honest. It was just the passion for it, and just the fire within me that I want to
Yeah.
give it a try. At least I want to try. But I did have my fears, and definitely what my parents said, it struck me as well. That what if I fall down? What if I break a leg? What's going
Mm.
to happen then? What if I meet with an accident which is so deadly that I am left mangled, or
Mm.
yeah, if something happens to me basically. And um
Yeah.
all I can say is that uh, if you put a reasonable thought into anything, you want to do it, you have confidence. I think in terms of percentage, 80-20, 20%
Yeah.
you're doubtful, but 80% you're confident and you so want to do it. Think reasonably all the risks that it involve and how it involves and how you're going to deal with those risks. And what others say, I think it is important to hear, but it's also important not to take it to heart or to mind.
True.
Because your passion, your love for trying something new is actually going to be the catalyst and will bring the change in life. If you think you can do it, you can do it. If you think you cannot do it, most likely you will not be able to do it. And people around us, they, our loved one, our friends, they have the best intentions for us in place. They are protective. They want to save us from the world or from difficult situations.
Yeah.
Um, and we need to take it in a good spirit, in the sense that listen to them, but most importantly, listen to what your heart says. And I think you should give it another try.
Yes, I am inspired, and honestly, so I'll be brutally honest that probably I wanted to do it, but probably I lacked that conviction as well. I would not just say that because I left it because my parents did not want it or my family or friends did not want me to do that. Somewhere, if you lack that conviction, uh, anything and everything will have an impact of your thinking, and uh, probably you would not go ahead with that, you know what you wanted to do. And
Yeah, definitely. You gotta want it badly. You gotta
yeah,
want it at any cost.
exactly. I think that's what I lacked, but yes, I think I should give it one more try. So I'll definitely let you know.
Yay!
Right. Moving on. So Kalvia, we talked about your love and passion for traveling, right? And now there are two aspects of my question. One, uh, what do you think how traveling has played a role in life, in your life, changing the outlook of how you look at things now versus probably when you were not traveling that much, or you haven't traveled that much, uh, versus now when you have traveled to a lot of destinations, met a lot of people, and the second part, to in continuity of this is that we know that you have traveled to Mozambique, obviously because of the work that
Mhm.
you do, uh, but also related to the traveling experience and the different cultures that what you have learned uh, from this travel as well.
Absolutely. So I started traveling for work initially, and I always traveled with my family, never even with friends. So I was, as a teenager and as a child, I was quite a shy, timid, and you can say a little low on confidence. Uh,
Were you?
I was, yeah.
Okay.
But I think job gave me a lot of confidence. And when I started traveling, initially things were challenging, things were difficult. I still remember the first trip that I made on my own solo was for work, and not within India, but it was to the UK. And the first night in London, such a beautiful city. I was crying all alone, trying to figure out where am I going to eat my dinner. I didn't want to eat it at the hotel. I went out and I looked so many restaurants, but I was so overwhelmed by this, changed environment and foreign environment that I was in. I was so scared. I went to a McDonald's, the worst place to grab a bite when you have so many lovely places around. And I just cried myself. And I was like, where have I landed? What am I going to do here? And my trip was for 5 days. And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to survive these 5 days? And I went home and I called my mom and I was like, I want to come home. And she said, make most of it. It's a lifetime experience. It's your first time. I know you're scared. I know you're all by yourself, but try and enjoy it. And I was like, yeah, okay, let's give it a try. That trip didn't go that well, to be honest. But the second trip, I was more confident. I was more flexible. And I think that's what travel is about. You become more confident in your own skin, in your own abilities. You develop new skills. You come across different people from different walks of life, different cultures, and you see things in a very different light altogether. And you become quite flexible as a person that, okay, so this is not as per the plan. No worries. Let's see, what future has in store for me. This booking didn't work. No worries. Let's go check out another place. So traveling has made me way more confident than I used to be, and way more flexible. And definitely, I've had amazing experiences. So, for instance, talking about Mozambique is very close to my heart because I went on a humanitarian program. So I will tell a little bit about my work, and not
Sure.
most people know about, are aware of what development sector and social development is all about. Basically, I'm not going to be able to talk a lot about my organization, but it's a government organization and not an Indian government. So
Yeah.
we provide funding for large scale programs to make lives better in different sectors. It could be in infrastructure sector, it could be in the sector of climate change and energy, it could be in governance or human rights. We usually work in partnership with big multilateral agencies like the UN, Asian Development Bank, World Bank. My role is of a program manager, so basically jack of all, master of none. I do everything starting from designing a program to procurement, managing finances, and overlooking delivery of a program on ground. Humanitarian program that I went for to Mozambique was my first time. When I actually went into the field, into remote areas of Mozambique, and got my hands dirty in the field, and I saw how people who are deeply stuck in poverty, deal with day-to-day life. People who have to walk 5 or 10 kilometers uh, every other day to get water or to get food. We provided food support because certain parts of Mozambique were severely affected by drought at that time. And then there were other parts that are affected by floods. So we were providing both flood relief as well as drought relief. For drought relief, we were giving ration. For flood relief, we were giving flood kits. And we went to the field to remote areas and came across people from completely different walk of life, and these women so vulnerable, petite, 4 feet, probably 5 inches tall, walking for around 5 or 10 kilometers just to get ration for the month from our camps, carrying children in a small so they had something called kapulana, a cloth they wrapped around their shoulder and waist, and they carried children in that. And then this ration would be around 10, 15, or could be 20 kilos, carrying that on their heads. And then they walked back another 5 or 10 kilometers. But when you saw them coming to the camp with sad eyes, tired faces, and then when they saw the food, the smile that brought, the food brought on their faces, things that we take for granted. Every meal we take for granted. We don't even think about it. We just think about choices. What am I going to have for dinner? Oh, I don't want to have kebabs. Let me go for a pizza.
Yeah.
That kind of choice we have. For them, all that mattered was that I am going to now have meals at least for the next few days. And it brought such smile to their faces. And then she would happily, with lots of energy, carry that 10, 20 kilos of ration over her head with two kids, or at times 3 kids around her waist, and walked back. That gave me goosebumps. That taught me a lot about gratification and about gratitude, and about what happiness is about, how it's so different for people from different walks of life, and how where you take birth actually, and how your conditioning is sort of sets the scene for you in terms of how happy you would be in life.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from Mozambique, loved the culture there, loved people, such beautiful people, and amazing sky. Africa has low pollution compared to Delhi, so the sky was so clear, so dramatically beautiful. I would just sit and stare at the sky for hours and hours together. And
Wow.
we were so warm, welcoming. I got fed a lot. Like, it's popular for seafood, and every other week we had some or the other get together at work, and there was so much of food and music. African people, they love food, they love music, they love to hang out and enjoy. So it was an amazing experience. Enjoyed it thoroughly. Also learned a lot for my work as well as for my personal growth.
That's beautiful. And when you were telling this, how they felt so satisfied and happy looking at the kit of ration that you were giving them. So I was just thinking that हम लोग कितना मतलब, if I talk about myself, me and my mom is literally fed up of me because lately I have become so choosy about what I want to eat or what I don't want to eat, and daily we have those discussions where I ask my mom for options. He give me 5 options or 4 options, then I'll choose. So now listening to this, I literally felt guilty that there are people in world who are just struggling to get that food for at least one meal a day, and here we have plenty of it and unlimited choices. Still we are not satisfied. Still we want more and more. But I think so why I felt guilty was probably हम ना कभी भी, a lot of times when we are eating, you're doing something besides eating, right? या तो लैपटॉप पे काम कर रहे हैं, फोन देख रहे हैं, एंड साथ साथ खा रहे हैं, पता नहीं चल रहा खा लिया, कब खा लिया खत्म हो गया, और हम
Hmm.
अपनी दुनिया में साथ में मस्त है, ठीक है। सो वो जो होता है ना कि ये एक ऐसी चीज है जिसके लिए मे बी 40-50% ऑफ द वर्ल्ड पॉपुलेशन इज स्ट्रगलिंग टू हैव वन मील अ डे, एंड हियर वी आर गेटिंग इट इन प्लेंटी, एंड हम उसको रिकॉग्नाइज तक नहीं कर रहे कि हमें वो मिल रहा है ना। वो ग्रेटिट्यूड वाली जो फीलिंग होती है completely missing, and acknowledge ही नहीं कर रहे हम इस चीज को। I think that's where I felt more guilty. I mean, having choices is always good. You can choose what's best for you, but at the same time acknowledging and having that gratitude in your heart is very important.
Oh, absolutely. And I do the same basically. I usually either read or watch something while eating. I know it's
Yeah.
not a good habit, but I think all of us do that. And
Yeah.
I think it's all right. Like, as long as it's not affecting you in a bad way, I think it's okay. It's okay to have some vices. We're not perfect beings. So,
Yeah. ये
yeah.
होता है ना, मतलब in some of the the manifestation journals that I've read, or some articles,
Mhm.
ये भी कहते हैं कि see, this food that you eat, this air that you inhale,
Mhm.
and this water that you drink, हमारी बॉडी क्या है, इन्हीं से तो बनी है ना, इन्हीं से ही
Mhm.
बनती है जो हम खा रहे हैं, पी रहे हैं या इनहेल कर रहे हैं।
Mhm.
तो अगर आप उस फूड को एक्नॉलेज कर रहे हो, फील कर रहे हो while eating that, while having that food, that
Mhm.
meal, then it manifests itself that way in your body.
Yeah,
Hey,
absolutely. I mean, so what I think is that if something is actually creating a problem, so for instance, some people, if when they eat a meal and they read or watch something side by side,
yeah,
they don't feel full. Even after they've eaten a good portion, they continue to binge. That's
right,
when it could be a problem. So you need to be more mindful of, your
exactly.
meals, food that is going in your body. Again, your food choices matter a lot. So if you're eating burger for every meal or a pizza or junk food or anything fried for every meal, but with a lot of mindfulness and gratitude, I think you're still going to get fat. Do you know what I mean? So
I completely get it. You become a burger.
yeah, you'll become a burger. So theek hai. I mean, it's great to do things rightly all the time and everything.
Yeah,
But I also believe that don't put a lot of stress on yourself. If
yeah,
something is okay and it's working out for you, um, just continue with it. Maybe focus on something else, which probably is having a bad effect or which is not working out. And we tend to become so focused on doing everything perfect and ideal that
yeah.
it becomes stressful. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I know.
we try to do things right all the time, by the book, everything. And instead of enjoying the process, we are actually just trying to make that, we're doing something right. And I think the point of everything is that you should enjoy the process and it should benefit you.
Yeah, true, true.
As simple as that.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Moving on. So now let's, since we touched upon how eating a burger we can become a burger. Now let's move to the fitness journey of yours, right?
Mm-hmm.
And trust me, it inspires me a lot, because somewhere I have been a witness to it through social media and different platforms we're connected. So what was the trigger which gravitated you towards it? And also, how do you link body fitness and mental health?
Yeah, that's a great question, Rahul, and I'm so glad that you raised this. So, as I mentioned earlier, my fitness journey basically started from a point where I was very unhealthy, obese, and um, I was pampered a lot as a child, and food was my go to place. Food was my comfort zone, um, and this happened till the time I passed high school. And once I got into college, I was quite fat at that. I was at the at the highest point of my weight. Basically, I weighed almost 110 kilos. At for a frame of 5 feet 5 inches, it's quite a lot. And it was an eye opener for me because I studied in one school throughout. All my sort of schooling was from one school, and I had friends, and I was in a comfort zone. Everyone knew me and accepted me as a funny fat girl who's timid, shy, but funny. So I was comfortable with that image. But when I entered college, and obviously it was also, I was going through puberty. And it's a difficult time. Puberty is a difficult time. So many changes are happening in your body, in terms of hormones, and you basically try and find out yourself. Who am I? Teenagers often they try and wonder who they are, what their identity is. You're searching for your identity in those teen years. And you're searching for validation, especially from the opposite sex. And if you are unattractive, if you have been, I was bullied a lot in school, and if you've been bullied a lot, and if you have been, mocked a lot for looking a certain way, it becomes very difficult, challenging to build that confidence which you need. So in college, first year, I saw all these pretty petite, young women who dressed up like dolls and could wear anything that they like, and they were getting all the attention from the opposite sex. I know it's a shallow start, but I just wanted to say that I was a teenager at that time. So these things mattered a lot to me. Having attention from the opposite sex, feeling desirable was important to me.
Yeah.
And first year of college, I said, okay, that's about it. I need to do something about this situation. And I started exercising. I was quite active in my school years as well. I was into volleyball, I was into shot put, but I was also a lot into food. So that first year of college, I think I paid a lot of attention to my diet. I exercised a lot, and I won't say that this journey of becoming fat to fit started on a good note. I went on crash diets and I exercised 3 or 4 times in a day, and it was an obsession. I lost a lot of weight. I lost almost 40 kilos in a span of 1 year.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. When I think of it now, I'm like, oh my gosh, I must have been crazy to go at that pace. I didn't take any consultation from a nutritionist or a dietitian. I was doing everything on my own. Crash dieting, lots of exercise, it had a huge impact, and not a good one, on my hormones, on my immune system. I lost all the weight, but I fell sick a lot after that because I was restricting my diet, and I was consuming almost 900 calories every day. I did it for a year or so, and
just 900.
Just 900. Yeah. So what I want to say is that the transformation did happen, but it wasn't a good transformation, and it happens with a lot of people. What I'm grateful about is that once I realized that this was a mistake, my take to food was not good. Either I was indulging too much into it, and that made me obese, or I was completely restricting myself, and that actually made me sick. And I thought that now I have to re-establish my relationship with food. And believe me, Rahul, it's still a struggle, because the patterns that you create as a child, they are so strong, they're so strongly embedded in your head that at times it's really difficult to stick to those new patterns that you're trying to create, new habits that you're trying to create, and it's still a struggle. At times I do go over the board, but I am being more mindful about eating nutritiously, lots of vegetables, lots of fruits. I don't stay away from carbohydrates. People say that, go follow keto or give up carbs altogether, they're bad for you. I do indulge in carbs. So a balanced meal altogether is basically what I try and stick with. It's paid me good results. My hormones have stabilized a lot. I have gained a lot of strength, and which is the goal. So initially,
Yeah.
when I started my fitness journey, it was all about looks. I wanted to look slimmer,
Mm.
prettier. Now it's all about getting stronger, fitter, and happier. And mental health is a part of it, because um, if your body is fit, but your mind is messed up,
Mm.
it's not going to work out. Somehow your physical fitness will slip. You have to have that mental and physical balance in order to be called healthy or fit. So fitness for me is not just about your physical fitness, but it's also mental. And how I got onto mental health is after my first breakup. As I said earlier, that I had a long
Yeah.
relationship for 13 years, and it somehow relates to my fitness journey, because as I lost the weight in first year of college, I met this lovely guy, and we started the relationship, and I felt accepted and I felt desired. Um, I probably wouldn't have chosen to go on with the relationship with him if it was now, because there were certain things that were not good. I mean, our compatibility was a huge issue. I had my insecurities. I was clingy. I was possessive. I was jealous. I had
Mm.
all these issues, um, and they were not related to my fitness. They were more mental issues. My body had changed, but my mind was same. Insecure, lacked confidence. I still wanted. I still felt. I had a doubt that I was desirable, despite looking great. My mind kept telling me that I probably am not that desirable. Probably he's going to go away.
Mm.
Whenever he talked to another woman, I would get jealous and possessive, and I would get so fearful. What if he breaks up with me? And that relationship, there was a lot of love in it, but there were a lot of insecurities from my side as well. Um, and I'm thankful to the gentleman. He was quite mature, and he helped me address those insecurities. And that's how I started the journey of being mentally healthy as well as physically. After the breakup, I was completely broken down into pieces. He was my pillar of strength. He was my go-to person in life for everything. And this person wasn't there. I was alone. I was lonely. I was sad. I was depressed. For a year, or I was on antidepressants, and I felt that I had nothing to look forward to in my life. Um, and then I realized that I have me to look forward to. And I have to
Exactly.
have a relationship with myself, which I didn't have. I was just looking externally. I was looking for validation, happiness, security, love, everything I was looking for in the outside world, when everything was actually just within me. To answer your question, um, physical fitness came into my mind first, and then there were these mental health issues that I had to sort of address, and I started addressing them, and that's how I got interested in mental health issues. Um, and somehow moving on from there, it got me interested in spirituality.
Yeah. And
Um,
that's my next question. That you know, while discussing offline, we talked about that. You know, growing and discovering the experiences beyond body and mind, right? So I want to know from you that what is your definition of it? You know, how to grow oneself beyond the realms of body and mind.
yeah, that's an interesting one. Um, so, as I said earlier, it's not about the body. It's not about how you look. Definitely, your health matters. If you have aches and pains, and if you're not able to function properly, it does affect your mental health. And your mental health is important, because if you're not feeling, I wouldn't even say happy every day, but if you're not feeling in sync with yourself, if every day is a challenge, you're questioning yourself, you're you're questioning your purpose, you're asking yourself, am I happy? Every day, it means that something is off, that sync isn't there. Mind is funny. Mind plays a lot of tricks, and mind is something that you can train. I'm not saying that you should try and control your mind. What I'm trying to say is that you should not necessarily pay a lot of attention to your mind. We try and create some identity for ourselves in life, and most of what we create in terms of identity is based on our insecurities. It's basically a defense mechanism. Creating an identity for yourself in a way it's just sort of caressing your ego. Body is ego, mind is ego. And I'm saying all this from the perspective of spirituality. You're not the mind, you're not the body, you are something else. Like, I'm talking about us as human beings. We are more evolved than body and mind. We are living conscience. There's something else within us. You call it soul, you call it energy, you call it consciousness. I don't know. I'm not spiritually enlightened. I'm still curious, still looking at the path. I haven't started my journey. I'm still curious about this path of spirituality, so I won't be able to answer that. But all I will say is that just don't define yourself in terms of your body or in terms of your mind. Mind is just a matter of conditioning. This is how we've been conditioned through our experiences, through our genetics, our relationships, but this is not us. And I don't know what it is. I'm still searching. But my message for someone who's spiritually curious, or who probably is trying to look at spirituality, is that the first place is that try and be an observer of self. Try and see yourself in a third person, as a third person. At times, when I'm caught in chain of thoughts, now whether you can call it negative or positive, I try and take a moment and observe my pattern of thinking as a third person, as a neutral person, outside of this body, outside of this mind. It gives me quite a lot of insight into what's happening in life. I don't know if it makes any sense. I don't know if I've been able to answer your question or explain it to you in a way that is clear. But I'm still on that path, so I don't have an answer.
No. So basically, likewise, I don't think anyone on this subject can be absolutely clear, but it's a journey. It's journey of evolution and evolving through your mind and body, or beyond your mind and body as well, and realizing that there are things beyond this. Our body and mind is not the only existence of us. We also exist in our thoughts, in our energies, and consciousness, and a lot of things. So why I try to include at least one question for every episode that I have, because of my curiosity to understand spirituality from different perspectives, with the people I meet. Okay, and lastly, we know that you are a keen reader, and you write poetry as well. So we would love to know the top 3 or 4 books in your list, and of course we just cannot let you go without listening to some of the poetry you created.
Oh my god. Yeah, I love writing, but it comes to me in phases, and it's mostly just sort of, you can say that whenever I go through an emotional phase, I kind of pour myself out. At times it's romantic, at times it's sad. It hasn't happened in a long time, to be honest, because I haven't had those sort of emotional experiences that I used to have. But yeah, so I don't remember anything that I wrote, and it's been long. I'm going to have to kind of look into a book or something, or I maintain a diary, so I write there, so I'm going to have to search for it. Or maybe my Insta page. I created an Insta page for poetry, but that's no longer kind of, it's not used anymore because I've stopped writing. But I still love to read poetry. I have this love for philosophy. So in terms of suggesting books, or in terms of, just mentioning the books that I really enjoyed, I would say, if we talk about spirituality, I would definitely recommend people reading this autobiography by Radhanath Swami, The Journey Home. It's beautiful in the sense that when I started reading about spirituality, I came across Bhakti Yoga, and it caught my attention. I got really interested in Bhakti Yoga, which is basically all about, devotion to the Almighty and loving every being, every creation. Love is the essence of life. Devotion and love, they're the essence of life according to Bhakti Yoga. That's the path of Bhakti Yoga: self-sacrifice and service, of others. That's the purpose of life according to Bhakti Yoga. So Radhanath Swami's autobiography, The Journey Home, is a really good book into, how this person who's born in America, a Jewish guy, regular guy born in America, how he found his path all the way to India. And it's a beautiful journey. He traveled on road from America he went to Europe for, on a backpacker's trip, and how from there he never returned back, and he found his way to India somehow. And his journey about spirituality, finding the right path, and he's been living in India for over 40 years now, and he's serving the community. He's connected to the ISKCON, ISKCON Foundation, ISKCON movement. And so, amazing autobiography. Another book by him, which I am currently reading, is The Journey Within, which is deep into spirituality and more from the perspective of Bhakti Yoga. Another book that I thoroughly enjoyed is called The Art of Happiness. This is essentially conversations between Dalai Lama and Howard Cutler. So those conversations on different subjects are captured in the book. Very insightful. And for the love of poetry and philosophy, I can suggest that I'm a huge fan of Khalil Gibran. So Lebanese, was a Lebanese philosopher and a poet. So his complete works, collection of 12 books, it's called The Complete Works of Khalil Gibran. That's a good read when it comes to poetry and philosophy.
All right, wonderful. And I will definitely include these authors and the name of these books in the description of this episode on all the platforms that we are available on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon.
So for the love of my poetry and the times when I write, that phase, I'd like to just sort of share a piece with everyone. हया से झुकी पलक और तेज धार सुरमा, नजर से घायल करने का इरादा है क्या? मुस्कुराते होंठ और बेपरवाह अदा, दिल रखना है या तोड़ने का इरादा है क्या? पास आती हो कुछ कहने फिर चुपचाप चली जाती हो, सांस देनी है या जान लेने का इरादा है क्या? मेरे सब्र का इम्तिहान लेती हो जिस तरह, ये बताओ कयामत तक जीने का इरादा है क्या?
Wow, this is so beautiful. I can imagine उस टाइम पे जब तुमने लिखा होगा ये, तुम कौन सी कितने डीप इमोशन से निकल रही होगी.
It was funny. I think I was going through a crush at that time when I wrote this.
I know. Wonderful things happen, when we are going through that, going into the love or coming out of the love journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Rumi says that, wound is the place where light enters you. So love is
Yeah,
also like that.
true, true. All right. It was a great experience having you here, and what a beautiful conversation. I hope our audience echo the same thoughts and share their love on this episode by liking, subscribing, and sharing with their loved ones. Well, take care, everyone. Take very good care of yourself. Bye bye.